Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be, of course, speaking in English because I really don't know Malayalam, so I have to use English. So I would start by telling little about my involvement with this project. Actually, I have been dealing with high-speed rails and survey, design, and construction of railway lines for the past for about 25 years before I retired. And I've been continuing this pursuit even after that. It was in 1995, that is almost 25 years ago, that Indian Railway uh, or the government of India decided that we should raise the speed of trains on our lines to 160 kmph. So at that time, I was in RDSO. So I was involved in carrying out field studies and trials to set track standards for raising speed to 160 kmph on our Indian railway lines. But anyway, that program got shelved. That did not happen. And today also we have trains running at 130 kmph. There is a maximum speed. Average speed is about half of that. Then in year 2006, I was doing a program, a postgraduate program at Indian Institute of Public Administration. So there I did a thesis on, my proposal was that India should raise the speed of trains on the whole Indian railway network to 160 to 200 kilometer per hour. That this is feasible rather than going for extremely costly bullet train lines. As you might be knowing, a bullet train line costs about 300 crores per kilometer. So that's a very high cost, whereas a normal track costs only about 30 crores per kilometer. So a bullet train line costs about 10 times of a normal railway line. Like a railway line from Thiruvananthapuram to Kasaragod. If you want to lay a new line, it would cost about 30 crores per kilometer. You can add cost of land to that. But if you are going to make a bullet train line, it would cost 10 times of that. So I had proposed that we should raise the speed of trains on our railway lines. Of course, in Kerala, there is a problem of topography and terrain. And the climatic conditions that you get very heavy floods. So speed of trains in Kerala is particularly slow. The average speed of trains in Kerala is about 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. Even the Rajdhani Express averages about 60 kilometers per hour from Thiruvananthapuram to Kasaragod. Whereas in other parts of the country, the same trains would average about 85 to 90 kilometers per hour. So whereas in the rest of the country, you have 85 to 90, in Kerala, you have only about 55 to 60 kilometers per hour. So trains in Kerala are about 30% slower, 30 to 40% slower than in other parts of the country. So anyway, then I was engaged by this Sistra company, who had been given contract for doing this study for a 200 kilometer per hour line. We call it as semi-high speed. But basically, this is also high speed. A bullet train runs at about 300 kilometer per hour, whereas this will run at about 200 kilometer per hour. Both are high speed. You can say that is ultra high speed, and this is normal high speed. So I was engaged by them as a consultant. They had their own team of engineers, and experts. So basically, this first study for this railway line, which was done in March 2019, was done under my guidance by the team of Sistra experts. They worked under my guidance to prepare that report. So that was called preliminary feasibility study. In that study, we examined all the aspects of building this line. What are the various options, whether speed on the existing lines can be raised, or whether what is the implication of building this line on standard gauge, which will be basically a sort of a line separated and isolated from rest of the Indian railway network, because trains cannot go from standard gauge to broad gauge, and trains from broad gauge cannot come on standard gauge. So if you make this line on standard gauge, you are forever isolated and separated from the national network. So we examined, I examined this aspect also in detail. And I also examined another aspect which is very unique to Kerala. I traveled all over Kerala, different parts, everywhere in connection with this study. So Kerala has a very unique pattern of population. Kerala does not have big cities. The population of 40 most populated cities of Kerala is about 40 lakhs. Whereas population of Ahmedabad alone is more than that. So the population in cities, in the main cities, is quite less, because the reason is again topography, because there's Kerala, a lot of it is low-lying area, prone to floods. So people live wherever the ground is high, where they are protected against floods. So you will find, the highways are on the roads, the main roads, your state highway and national highway, they are all on raised ground. They have been designed so that they are not affected by floods. So what I found is that most of the people in Kerala live in towns along these highways, on wherever there is high ground. So with the result that population in Kerala, the urban population is very much scattered. Instead of being concentrated in cities like Thiruvananthapuram, Kollam or Ernakulam, it is spread over a very large number of towns and cities. There are maybe hundreds or more than 100 towns and cities which are fairly good in size, and a lot of people live there. So this population pattern is very unique to Kerala. So I studied all these things. Now the problem with the present proposal is that it has been dealt with in a very arbitrary manner. Very arbitrary and very unscientific, and I would even say in a very incompetent manner by the people concerned. Now let's see, first of all, what happened is, I will take you to a little bit of chronology, which I have got here with me. Yeah, let's see this. In October 2018, Railway Board approved K-Rail as a standalone elevated corridor on proposal of KRDCL, which did not even examine if an elevated corridor was feasible. This was for a broad gauge line. So the first proposal of KRDCL was for a elevated corridor on broad gauge. Now, when I started working on this, I realized that elevated corridor is not feasible at all. Because the terrain is full of backwaters and highlands, an elevated corridor is not technically feasible. So even now you can see the the alignment which KRDCL has proposed is 75% on ground. Elevated is only about 18% and about 6-7% is underground. So the beginning itself was very bad. I mean, you thought of an elevated corridor, but it was found that it is not feasible. Now, second is that in 2019, after I had done this preliminary feasibility study, in that study, I advised them that you must reconsider your decision to adopt standard gauge, because standard gauge leads to a very high cost, a much higher cost than what it would be on broad gauge, and traffic on the line will also greatly reduce. So I recommended that you must seriously consider broad gauge. Now, how this standard gauge came? Railway Board in October 18 had approved for broad gauge. Somebody decided to make it on standard gauge. Now, this was all very improper, and I will say irregular, because only Railway Board can approve what gauge will be adopted. Nobody else can take a decision. And if you are anyway taking a decision to make it on standard gauge, then it has to be based on a study of comparative advantages and disadvantages of making a line on broad gauge, which will be integrated with the national network, and making a line on standard gauge which will be standalone and isolated. So this decision to adopt standard gauge was also I will say quite improper. Without any study, without any data, it was quite arbitrary. Now, after I left, KRDCL simply made some changes and submitted this report as a final report. Now, this report was based on an alignment which was made on Google Earth, that is only on topographic data, and Google Earth is not for making alignment. It is a very rough way of knowing about the topography of a place. And there are very clear-cut Railway Board rules that before you submit any feasibility report, you have to prepare an alignment along with ground investigation of geological, geotechnical, and hydrological conditions. Now, this becomes very important in Kerala because, as we all know, Kerala is highly flood prone, and there is a very serious problem of bearing capacity. I mean, you will find, even in all over Kerala, people use piles to make foundations for buildings because bearing capacity is low, so they have to build on piles. So considering all these things, that bearing capacity is a very serious problem, it is a very flood prone area, the Railway Board should never have approved this proposal of KRDCL. It should never have been approved. I don't know how it was approved. Probably they did not even bother to see whether proper ground investigations had been carried out, whether it was really technically feasible or not, and it was approved. In principle approval was given. In principle approval is basically a final approval. I mean, it is a prelude to final approval because you are even allowing about 100 crore to be spent on the project for preliminary works like making arrangements for land acquisition or making offices and making even boundary wall pillars and all those things. So the manner in which this was approved was not proper. So this is how this had a very bad beginning, and this is how it, it has been, the whole project has been processed. Now, what happens when you work on such a proposal? You may acquire land, okay? Then you may even award contracts. But when people will go contractors, companies, engineers will go to build the line, they will find that this line cannot be built because a proper study has not been carried out. Whatever has been done afterwards, it is just to prove that what they had earlier proposed was right. Now, let's take one example of, most of this line is on embankment. Now, on Indian Railway, trains run maximum at 130 to 140 kilometer per hour. This is the maximum speed on Indian Railways. Whereas this line will carry trains at 200 kilometer per hour, which is very high. It's almost double, you can say. It's a very high speed. There are no guidelines about construction of viaducts or embankments or tunnels for 200 kilometer per hour. So in this thing, the feasibility report which has been prepared, all these things have not been looked into. Whereas all these, whether it will be possible to build a line on high embankment, because embankment will be about 4 meter to 8 meter high. That's a very high embankment. Whether you can make a line in flood prone area, because that embankment is going to act like a wall. If there is a massive flood, the whole line can be in wherever this kind of flash flood occurs, that portion of line can be simply washed away. And because it will be also blocking the natural flow of water from the Western Ghats to the Arabian Sea. All the rivers are coming down from the Western Ghats and they're going to Arabian Sea. And because slope is very steep, these are very rapidly flowing rivers. So the construction of this line on high embankment is going to create problem, worsen the problem. It is likely to worsen the problem. There's very likelihood that it will worsen the problem of floods in Kerala. So that will affect the entire population, because most of the population lives within the 20 kilometer stretch along the sea. I mean, if you take a 20 kilometer, 10 kilometer width along the sea coast, that is where people live. So, I mean, this is going to have all these implications. All these studies should have been carried out, but they were not carried out. Now, I will show you one more data. This 200 kilometer speed line will have enormous capacity. It can carry up to 4 to 5 lakh passengers per day. 4 to 5 lakh passengers per day is the capacity, going to be the capacity of this line. And this is why these lines are also very costly. According to the government KRDCL's proposal, it will cost about 120 crores per kilometer. So the capacity of these lines is extremely high. So, and will it be possible to get this much of traffic on a standalone line? That begs the question, and I will tell you why this does not. This is one of the serious problems with this entire proposal. Now let's take this. This is about the Mumbai-Ahmedabad. This is a comparison of Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train line and our K-Rail 200 kilometer per hour line. Now let's take here. This is Mumbai-Ahmedabad on the left. On the right is the K line. You will see about 92% of the bullet train line is elevated. 92%. Only about 8% is underground or on embankment. On the other side, this K-Rail line is just the opposite. Elevated is only 19% and underground is 6% and on grade is 75%. So this raises two issues. One is the requirement of land, and of course, other is the susceptibility to floods and and natural disasters. I'll come to requirement of land later on. Now let's see this population in station cities in the corridor.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Are
Yeah.
you sharing your screen? Are you sharing
Sharing my?
your screen?
Sir, we
Yeah,
cannot
I'm-
see anything. We cannot see anything in the screen.
You cannot see?
No, sir, we cannot see.
No, nothing is there.
Really, I am actually sharing with you. Just a moment. Let me see whether I have missed something.
We can see.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think I made a mistake.
And he's
You
not
have
a co-host. Make
Have
him co-host, then only he can share it.
Yeah, you have disabled, I think, sharing.
You make it co-host, then only he can share his screen.
Yeah, will somebody?
Whoever is the host, please make him co-host, then only he can do it.
Felix, please do that. Please.
Excuse me. I think we may ask your questions after the presentation. Let him complete his presentation, please.
No, sir, this is not asking questions. He needs to share something in the screen from his laptop. So you need to make him co-host. That's the issue.
So
Let him. I'm muting them.
yeah, somebody has to
Okay.
make.
Alok Verma sir, please complete your presentation.
No, but can you,
We will allow others to ask questions later. No need to answer any question now.
okay. But can you make me co-host so that I can share these files? Somebody who is.
We are not
Okay,
asking any
you just make the
questions.
presentation. only.
Please, Felix, please understand, we are not asking any questions. Mr. Alok Kumar Verma is brilliantly showing some maps to us, and we are not able to see that. We are
Yes.
pointing it out to you.
സാറേ അതെ കോ-ഹോസ്റ്റ് ആക്കണം പുള്ളി. നമ്മുടെ സാറ് ആരാണ് ഹോസ്റ്റ്, പുള്ളി അലോക് കുമാർ വർമ്മ സാറിനെ കോ-ഹോസ്റ്റ് ആക്കിയെങ്കിലേ സാറ് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഡോക്യുമെന്റ്സ് നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റത്തുള്ളൂ. ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല സ്ക്രീനിൽ. അതാണ് പ്രശ്നം. ചോദ്യം ചോദിച്ചതല്ല.
ഹോസ്റ്റ് ആക്കണ്ട, അതേ സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാനുള്ള പെർമിഷൻ കൊടുത്താൽ മതി.
ഓക്കെ, എന്തായാലും
Alok Kumar Verma sir, you just complete your presentation. No questions is allowed now.
Okay, so I should.
If somebody has to make any questions, you may ask after the presentation.
Okay,
We will give you
no need
necessary
of
time.
presentation. You just complete your.
Okay, then I will.
Yes, sir, please complete your talk. We will show that presentation last when we make it as a Google piece. You know, we will record this in the Google. Then that time I will collect from you and show this one. It's okay. Now you can go ahead.
Okay, so what the thing?
If anybody else is making further problems in between the presentation, I will ask them to keep out of the program.
Okay, so what the data that I have that is there is that the population on Mumbai-Ahmedabad corridor is about 250 lakhs, according to 2011 census. This is the population of the main cities on which where the high-speed line will have its stations. So you can say it has got population of 250 lakh can use that line. Whereas in the case of Kerala, the total population in the 11 cities where they are proposing to provide stations is only 34 lakhs. So it is about 1/7 of the population in Mumbai-Ahmedabad line, this bullet train line. Now you see what is their traffic projection. Mumbai-Ahmedabad, the traffic projection is only 40,000. whereas K-Rail's traffic projection is 80,000. I mean, the population is 1/7, but the traffic projection is twice. So, I mean, this immediately raises doubt that this traffic projection is not correct. It is highly inflated. Now, one more thing is that their traffic study shows that the average length of trips by this line will be only about 200 kilometers. So most of the people, about say 70% of the passengers, will be traveling for 200 kilometers or less. Now, what you are having here is that most of these stations are far away from the city center. For example, at Kochi, the station is in somewhere near Kakkanad, which is about say 10 to 15 kilometers from MG Road, and from Fort area it would be about 20 kilometers. So that's very far off. So this will be a big disincentive for people who have to travel just about 200 kilometers to travel all the way to the station and then board the train there. And similarly, say they are coming to Thiruvananthapuram, that station at Thiruvananthapuram is also about 10 kilometers away from the main city. So these stations are almost like airports. Of course, airports will be little farther away, but not, I mean, they are also near the outskirts of the city. So this is also a very negative feature of this line. And these are all important stations like Thiruvananthapuram, Kollam, Kottayam, Chenganur, then Kochi. They will all be far away from the city center. Only Thrissur would be there, not very far off. Kannur will also be not very far off. But all these main cities, station will be very far away. So this traffic estimate of 79,934 is absolutely absurd. It is totally unrealistic. Now let's take what is going to be the fare of this trains. It will be about 2.75 rupees per kilometer. 2.75, whereas fare of AC first class is 3.84. So fare is going to be almost like only a little less than AC first class. It will be more than second AC. Second AC is 2.29 rupees, 2.2 rupees 29 paisa per kilometer, whereas K-Rail will be more than that, 2.75. So these tickets are also going to be very costly. So this further puts a doubt on this figure of 80,000. I mean, this really needs to be looked into, and this is definitely, I have no hesitation in saying that this is highly exaggerated, and my estimate is that traffic will be less than 20,000. I mean, they are saying 80,000. My estimate is that it will be about 20,000, 1/4. Their estimate is 4 times. And I have given you the reasons why this thing is not correct. Now let's take one more thing which affects everybody, because people who are living, who will be living near the line. Now in this proposal, they will be acquiring a very narrow strip of land, because they want to reduce the cost of the project, and of course land is costly, but the width of land is very less. For viaduct it is only 15 meters. From end to end they will be acquiring only 15 meter width. For embankment it is only about 20 meters. So I mean, the people who will be living in their private land near the railway station will find it very, very odd to have railway lines running in front of them at 200 km/h and at every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because at peak hours, trains will be running at quite few intervals. Maybe not now, maybe after 10 years, 15 years, when the traffic picks up, you will have trains, high-speed trains, 200 km/h speed trains running at every 10 minutes interval. So this is going to create a very serious problem of noise and ground vibrations for the people who will be living nearby. And also visual infraction, because embankments are 4 to 8 meter high. And on the top, you will have train running. So this will be a sort of a visual barrier also for the people who are living along this new railway line. The normal practice on Indian Railway has been to take minimum 40 meter of land. So here they are going to take almost half of that. So this is going to create this issue. This has not been examined at all by KRDCL or their consultants. What will be the effect of this acquiring so less land, such a narrow width of land? What will be the effect of noise and ground vibrations on the people who will be living there? Now, we are talking about Indian Railway conditions. If you stand near a railway line, you can see how much noise they will create. So even they may say that we will provide sound barriers, and they may say these are all sophisticated imported railway coaches and they will not make noise. No, but it is not so, because in many countries, this is a very major complaint, and there people are paid compensation. People are given two options, that if you are going to be affected by noise, then you can either sell your property to railway, to whoever is making the railway line. You have the option of either selling your property to this thing, or you will be paid compensation for the noise, because then you will have to make certain modifications in your property. You will have to insulation of sound and other things. So you have the option to either sell your property to the government, or you will be paid compensation for noise and vibrations, so that you can make changes in your property so that you are not affected by this thing. So this is an issue which is a very serious issue, which will affect a very large number of people, because so many, maybe lakhs of people will be there who will be living quite near to this railway line, right from Thiruvananthapuram to Kasaragod, about 530 kilometers. So this is an issue which must be examined properly before a go-ahead is given to this project. Now, anyway, I can't share the images with you, so I will not show you. Otherwise, I had some images to show you about how this noise and ground vibration, they are propagated to the structures, to the houses and buildings which will be there along near to the railway line. So I think I have covered quite most of the points, and if there are questions, I will answer. I will just summarize in a few words. The idea is good. The idea to have a fast, high-speed rail transportation in Kerala is a good idea. It's a good idea because roads are also very slow in Kerala. You take about 5 to 6 hours to cover a distance of about 200 kilometers from, say, Thiruvananthapuram to Kochi. The roads are also very slow. So if you have a good railway line which can carry trains at about at almost double the speed of the present trains, it will be a big boon for the people of Kerala. So the idea is good, but the implementation is very wrong, and it is wrong from day one. Day one, as I said, approval was given for an elevated corridor. they found that it is not feasible. Then it was originally broad gauge. It was arbitrarily changed into standard gauge without examining what will be the effect of a standalone and isolated line. And then the in principle approval was given without really studying the alignment, the ground conditions, whether the bearing capacity, the effect of floods, all the hydrological conditions, nothing was examined. So it was a paper alignment, and there should be no doubt that this is going to be a very unworkable proposal. Construction will not be feasible. Then third thing, of course, which I have highlighted is the traffic projection is absolutely arbitrary, totally out of the way. You can never have 80,000 passengers paying 2.75 rupees per kilometer, fare more than AC second class and almost only a little less than AC first. So this traffic projection of 80,000 is totally unrealistic. My estimate is that it will not be more than 20,000, 1/4. And the last and very significant issue is of ground vibrations and noise for the people, because you are proposing to acquire a very narrow width of land, which is almost half of what railways normally does. And that is for 100 km per hour. Here you are going to have trains for 200 km per hour. So it does not make any sense that why should you acquire even narrower land? You should have more land. So, I mean, these are the main issues which I think they convey the essence of the problems with this entire scheme. And my recommendation would be that don't rush with it. Really, is it really workable? Is the traffic projection right? What is going to be the effect of noise and vibration on the people? All these issues have to be examined by competent people. I have no hesitation in saying, from my experience of interactions with these people, the people who have prepared this report, is that their knowledge and technical competence is very limited. They don't have the necessary knowledge and competence to handle this project. I have no hesitation in saying that. So I'll conclude with that. Thank you.